We will be working with all our partners to improve those ESG scores to give us confidence that we have sustainability embedded across our supply chain. What's going to happen, and is happening, is a continued explosion of interest in science-based targets. They are a prerequisite for functioning in the 21st century for any corporate that describes itself as having intentions to tackle climate change. It's necessary to turn that intention into real tangible commitment, and the Science-Based Target Initiative does that. Beyond that, there's some fundamentals that I think are going to become increasingly important. So in particular, the idea of a just transition is going to have to be critical to business planning and strategy development. How do we ensure that this transition is fair and equitable has to be at the heart of our decision making. So I think that's going to be a really important theme. I think also customer engagement, as you know, this transition that we're now embarking on marks a shift from where we've been, which has been largely about decarbonising the power sector. It now increasingly comes about decarbonising our homes and how we travel. In order to do that, we have to work with people, we have to work with customers, we have to work with the public to ensure that we're building solutions that are fit for the modern world. So there'll be a much greater kind of emphasis on customer engagement. And I think there's also perhaps some techie conversations that we need to have about what does net zero mean. I think that's going to get unpacked. I think we need to have greater transparency in what that means, so we all have confidence that the collective effort is actually going to put us on a path to a safer climate future. So I think those are some of the big themes that I think are going to be to the fore in the coming months and as we approach COP and beyond. Fundamentally, the transition to net zero is a huge opportunity, not forgetting, of course, that it's actually a journey that we have to deliver on, we have to commit ourselves to. But before exploring those opportunities, it's important that we don't just jump over the challenges, we have to acknowledge them. Fundamentally, we have to move considerably faster than we have done before. The pace of change, if the UK is to meet its 6 carbon budget, that's the period beyond up to and beyond 2030, is an awful lot faster than we've done historically over the last decade. So that means we have to move now with imperfect knowledge. We have to be prepared to pilot and test new technologies and learn while we're doing. So that presents new challenges of ways of working. Fundamentally, it's also climate change is a systemic problem that requires huge coordination in how we move forward, and that's going to be a big challenge. Of course, there's a challenge in taking the public with us on this transition. That's where we have to lock in a just transition. We cannot afford to leave anybody behind in this. There has to be jobs for those sectors that are kind of rooted in the fossil fuel industry, and there has to be fairness in the provision of new solutions and technologies to tackle climate change. So there are some big challenges, but the opportunities are enormous, and the imperative is overriding. So, tackling climate change delivers significant public health benefits. It improves the air quality, it improves the living conditions of energy poor households. It removes fossil fuels from our means of transport and the pollution that comes from those, and it removes them from our homes. So, and in doing that, it actually creates huge job creation opportunities across the economy. I think for the main driver, the fundamental driver for Scottish Power in tackling climate change and contributing to sustainable development is a recognition that we face an environmental crisis. We're faced with a biodiversity crisis, we're in the middle of a 6th mass extinction of the natural world, and currently we're on track for over 3 degrees of global warming. So our response and what we're doing today is fundamentally rooted in an appreciation of that challenge and the need for all of us to step up and show leadership in that response. We've actually taken that understanding and locked that into our company purpose. We've embedded the Sustainable Development Goals in our governance structures and in our business strategy. So we've translated an understanding and an appreciation of the existential challenge that faces us and we've locked it into our business and how we go about responding. So the next steps are really an acceleration. We all need to accelerate. I mean, that is the biggest challenge, if you like, but also the greatest opportunity. We have to move considerably faster if we're to avoid the worst impacts of climate change. So for Scottish Power, that means tripling our wind portfolio in the next decade. Something that's created, it's taken 20 years for us to build. We plan to triple in the next decade, and that's the scale of the pace at which we're coming to this challenge. Beyond that, we're also looking to kind of really develop new solutions around green hydrogen, around batteries and storage, around smart heating and renewable heating in particular. So there's a whole suite of both existing technologies, deploying them at scale and at pace across the offshore and onshore wind sector, and then bringing new products to customers that help them to cut their emissions and businesses to cut their own emissions. So those are the real fundamental building blocks of what we're going to do going forward. Beyond that, there's a huge responsibility on us also to engage more in the biodiversity challenge. So I think we'll be doing an awful lot more in that space. We have huge ambitions to be part of a nature-based solution response to climate change. And then fundamentally, we have to all start conversations with our customers and with the public about the climate challenge, about the imperative of the response, because now the nature of that transition is much more granular. It requires us to kind of work hand in hand with customers, with the public, to start from where they are and build solutions with them in order to kind of get to a better future quicker. The relationship we have with our supply chain is critical to transforming the economy. It's critical to Scottish Power, and all businesses with supply chains, particularly of the scale of Scottish Power's, have to work in partnership if we're to get to net zero. So that's exactly where we're starting from, with a conversation with our supply chain, which is over 1,000 companies strong, about how do we make that transition, what can they do, what do we expect of them. So we're introducing a new supply chain scoring metric that looks at our suppliers across the ESG categories and uses that framework in order to drive change. And we really see Scottish Power as being a catalyst for embedding sustainability across that supply chain. But we can't leave anyone behind, and we have no intention of leaving anyone behind. We will be working with all our partners to improve those ESG scores, to give us confidence that we have sustainability embedded across our supply chain, because that really delivers benefits across the whole of the UK economy and further afield. So COP26, the world, coming to Glasgow, our home city, in order to significantly progress the world's ambitions to prevent the worst impacts of climate change, is clearly a hugely important moment for Scottish Power, for all of us, and we want to play our part in making it a success. That means that we're looking to be a host that welcomes the world to Glasgow, that demonstrates that low carbon solutions are part and parcel of the Scottish economy, that they deliver thousands of jobs, that we can decarbonise our power sector, and that there are solutions to tackling our use of fossil fuels in transport and homes. So it's a significant landmark date, if you like, for us, and as a principal partner, we really want to be at the heart of that, supporting the global effort to tackle climate change. And as part of the Iberdrola Group, who have been at the heart of COPs ever since the Paris Agreement and before, this is part and parcel of what we do. We stand together with everybody who is committed to tackling climate change, and we have a whole suite of activities that we're planning on doing over the course of the year. We've launched our Climate Connect series of lectures with Glasgow and Strathclyde universities, great series of talks about different aspects of climate change. We've also launched a partnership with WWF Scotland and with Sustainable Scotland Network called the Climate Collaboration Challenge. This is about the private, public and voluntary sectors coming together and looking at how we can build new partnerships to deliver action on the ground.